Today we're doing an interview with David Crawford on the RAP, and he will tell you what RAP means and how long it's been in existence and some of the reasons that it was started up.
So roughly about over 30 years ago, I was on the Nipigon Economic Development Committee, and we were doing some work trying to develop a new waterfront. They were separate committees at one time, and I says, well, I ended up being chair, so I says, well, I think we should get the waterfront stuff going. So some of the stuff that's now in the waterfront in Nipigon here with the new boardwalks and all that was put in around that time. And anyway, when I was on that committee, Jerry Brennan asked me, Reeve asked me if I'd be interested in going on an environmental committee, and which was called the RAP, which means Remedial Action Plan. And there's all these, I guess they're called synonyms or whatever, and there's a PAC. So PAC means Public Advisory. So it was a nice setup because it let people be on the committee and make some of the decisions to develop things. So, and the whole idea of the RAP was to identify the pollution sources in Nipigon Bay and figure out how to get rid of pollution problems. So we were able to identify 4 things that we thought were affecting the bay in a bad way. One was Nipigon sewage treatment, that is Red Rock sewage treatment, the Red Rock mill, and we, after many months of arguing and all that, we managed to include the water levels on the river. And the reason, the other ones are fairly obvious, but the river, because of fluctuating water levels, affects the fishery in many ways, like siltation or levels on things washing down the river. And what really was a bad thing was fish could spawn at a certain river flow, and the water could drop over the winter, and you lose that year class of fish. And the same thing could happen on Lake Nipigon by not maintaining the Lake Nipigon level right. So we actually had a guy from Hydro come to our meetings, which was he turned out to be a really good guy, but he came down driving a Mercedes with leather gloves, driving gloves on. We thought, oh boy, I don't know how we're going to get any headway with this guy, but he actually was good, and he used to come to our summer get-togethers and all that, and we eventually got a water level agreement for the Nipigon River, and that's helping the brook trout fishery really good, and lake trout, I think, for that matter. Actually, the RAP committees, there was 43 areas on the Great Lakes identified as having heavy pollution, and 4 of them being on Lake Superior, and all 4 were areas where there were paper mills. So in Marathon it was Peninsula Harbor, Terrace Bay is Jackfish Bay, Thunder Bay, and Nipigon, of course. So the paper mills were a big deal to try and get them cleaned up, although they were under certain things to clean themselves up. The Red Rock Mill had a sewage treatment plant, and they later had to do all kinds of improvements each year to make everything work well. And in the end, I think the mill probably made more paper than they ever made, and with less pollution than they used to make. So that was a positive thing, but it wasn't completely perfect, right? So, and Red Rock now is finally doing their sewage treatment, which they got the money initially, same time as Nipigon did, and somehow squandered that money or whatever happened. So that was, our RAP committee was actually still going on, which I'm still the chair after 30 years, and that was our main arguing point in the end, because they want us to shut down the RAP, and we were trying to add new things in, like nuclear waste and that, but the mandate of the RAP was to identify the pollution sources at that time and remediate them. We couldn't add in all these other things, or we have a significant wetland at the mouth of the river that's threatened and stuff like that. I tried for many meetings and a few arguments with the mayor and all that, but at least now the Red Rock is getting done, and so we're pretty close to shutting down the RAP. And there's a word for shutting it down, but it's not coming to me right now.
David, is the sewage plant at Red Rock going to sort of the last one
Yeah.
to do that? I think I just heard that.
Yes.
They're the last ones, and then it will be cleaned up there.
Yes, that's right. So now we can officially close up the RAP. But over the years, well, the main goals of the RAP was to have cleaner water as possible coming down the river and in the bay. Actually, look at my shirt. There's Nipigon's up here. This is Nipigon Bay. This is Nipigon Strait. So it's like a heart. That's the area of concern because the mill was in Red Rock, so it was putting a lot of pollution into the bay there. And and this is stage 2. Like stage 1 for us and the committee was to identify the problems, and then stage 2 was to try to remediate them. So now we have remediated Nipigon sewage. Red Rock's coming. Red Rock Mill's gone, and the water levels are done. And because I think at the time when we first brought that hydro guy in, hydro just moved the river or lake, whatever the heck they wanted. Nobody was saying anything. So I think that we added enough pressure to them that they had to have it. They have to pay attention now, and they do a lot more monitoring around the lake, and they know what they have to do. They can divert water out of Lake Nipigon. They can bring it down this way. And I think most people are happy with it, but you're never going to make everybody happy. And then on extreme conditions, like super high water and super low water, you can't, you're done. You know, you don't have too much you can do. But over the years, we did some creek cleanups. One, and notably in Nipigon, was the Clearwater Creek project. I don't know whether you got a goofy name like Clearwater, but but no, that is a good name actually for what we're doing.
About that,
no, but it was good though.
Right.
But anyway, and we actually had a cleanup there with how many people? 30 people went down that creek and cleaned everything out of that gully, and we got it moved again into a better way of coming into the bay. And we did Kama Creek. What happens along the bay is say there's a washout on the railway or something like that. Well, they want that train across there right away, so they just go in with bulldozers, bang, bang. There goes the creek basin, and it affects the spawning fish and all that kind of stuff. So we remediated Kama Creek. There's other ones that should be done. But that's not officially part of our mandate, but the committee had enough pressure to get money and stuff at that time. But basically the MOE and MOE in particular, Environment Canada in particular wanted us to shut this down. They were pressuring us, and we kept arguing, and now our argument is kind of done. We got no more arguing to do.
So David, where would you have got funding for some of your projects? From the MOE?
Yeah, oh yeah. Because
Okay.
there was, and M&R in particular, like there was guys in Thunder Bay that were Thunder Bay M&R and local M&R, so they can get different projects through them.
Okay.
And the MOE, see, we were actually looking at the fishery in the bay, and they're supposed to monitor that fishery and see what's going on, and they're supposed to all this stuff, and now I guess it's going to go over to the conservation area. It's going to be federal jurisdiction, and I hope they do better than they appear to be doing, because they don't appear to be doing anything right now to me, after us guys 30 years trying to do this stuff. And but it's going to be under federal jurisdiction. The other thing, the Red Rock Marina was done with RAP money, and I had a few arguments there, but Nipigon was a little bit too cheap. They wouldn't gamble on putting town money in and all at that time, and Red Rock got like $3 million to build a gravel pit / marina. And but anyway, it was done to good standards, environmental standards, to the point where lake trout were actually spawning right along the rocks along the marina and stuff like that. And we tried at one time, because among the other committees I was on earlier, we were on I was on the museum committee, because we were trying to make a museum and environmental interpretive center, probably at the marina. At the time we were thinking, but and we just couldn't get the funding for that, and So that sort of fell by the wayside. It's too bad. I worked long, hard trying to get. We actually had a building design and everything, and but that kind of fell through.
So when Parks Canada put up theirs, they may have an interpretive component to
Yeah.
their building there that,
I'm
that
hoping.
might address some of those things.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I hope to go to talk to people at Environment Canada there, especially the new CEO or whatever, because all about this, because he may not know a lot about it. You know, I could tell him firsthand, and hopefully they can tell us more what they're going to do with the fishery and all that kind of stuff. That's a big deal. You know, if you don't monitor property, you don't see what's going on. It's a funny thing about the environment. You can do a lot of things, but one thing that, like, people love salmon fishing and all that, but salmon are actually an invasive species. They weren't from here. And we found out with lake trout, Rob Swainson even proved that, the brook trout are very fussy spawners. They like a gravel base with a spring. And they have actually underwater video of lake trout pushing brook trout off their spawning beds. So, but see, all that research through our committee and the MNR, we know now where the main spawning areas in the lower river are. We know how to try to protect them, and so the whole RAP program, because it was international, because of the 43 hotspots, a lot of them were in the States, because it's all in all the Great Lakes. So we did our little bit here, and I think Jackfish Bay still got
So
issues.
your RAP committee here was basically concerned with the Nipigon Bay.
Yes.
And so was there going to be a RAP in Marathon?
Yes.
There was-
There's one in Marathon, one in Jackfish for
Oh.
Terrace Bay. And Terrace Bay still got issues, I think, with the mill outfall. But they've done some of the cleanup that our mill did. They have settling ponds up at the mill. Thunder Bay had a big issue with northern wood preservers in there. They're cleaning that up still. And Marathon had an issue with mercury. And in the end, how they remediated that was with, they buried it basically. Because mercury is such a funny substance, you start digging and trying to get it out of there, it's just going to spread. At least now, so the remediation plan for that is just cover it. Because there is a certain amount of mercury in the soil or whatever anyway, but it's too bad that we have pollution problems, that side effects of our industry. But
So David, just for a comment, if the mill in Red Rock had still been running now, would there have been still a concern then for pollution in the bay?
yeah, but they were always governed by new laws to make them clean up. So, and it's not a perfect world, but you could have settling tanks so things don't go in the lake or all that kind of. Even now, the mill has a settling pond was left full, and then we got a guy from Ministry of Environment to come in and ask what they would do, and basically they would just open up a channel and let it in slowly, because water dilutes, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's been many years with rain and snow and evaporation or whatever. It's probably not that strong now. And the mill also has a big pile of lime residue in the back, and nobody can figure out what to do with that. They thought at one time that they could put it in mines, in old mines, when they're shutting them down. They put lime in, but that lime was just contaminated with other stuff. You couldn't do it either. So that's sort of still an issue with the bay, but by slow leaching, nature can take care of it. But if you had a massive flood, or that mountain fell in behind and knocked all the lime in the lake, that could be bad news.
Right.
You know.
So really, the things that RAP does are ongoing, even though your committee will not
Yeah,
be
I don't.
active. Some of the things will be ongoing.
Yes, but we talked about having a new committee. But my feeling now is, because I've been here 30 years, and I actually wrote it down here, we lost 2 members in those 30 years, Maureen Dampier and Wayne Young recently, and I thought, well, our mandate is officially done. I guess so the new committee would have to start, and I didn't know if I wanted to be on the new committee, but I wanted to shut wrap down, so we leave on a high. You know what I mean? I don't want the other committee to drag the wrap work down. And so right now I don't think we're going to start a new committee. Or somebody does. I don't know if I'd be chair or whatever. But it's all depending on, right now, it would be the Marine Conservation Area, what they're going to do.
Lots of information then about what went on in the
Yeah.
past. Maybe you could just hold up your
Oh.
yeah, just
Oh
the
yeah,
book-
that's one part
the
of my.
book there that you had, so that
Well,
we can
actually, we had, like, I got a stack of books like this. I brought already some
just
down
turn it
here.
around so that
Yeah. And but we read and read, like, all kinds of reports. This is brook trout spawning. This is stage 1 stuff. But I'm sure the pile of stuff that I accumulated, especially in the first 10 years, is this high. So we're all the people on the committee were pretty knowledgeable about the bay. You know what I mean? And and that knowledge, I don't know if it's getting maintained now, really, because like some people have passed, and so Betty was another member of our committee, still is, and so her and I have been there since day one, and so there's a lot of good people from this town that were on the committee. Dave Nuttall, and yeah, so I just trying to think of what all I can add to this, but
I just think that it's important, though, that we've interviewed you, and as you said,
Yeah.
that's 30 years of being very active for the
Yes.
RAP, and so now we at least have it recorded
Yeah.
about what was done and why it was
Right.
done, and I think that's really important
Yes.
for the history of Nipigon.
Yeah.
And if you get a new committee, maybe it'll be more of a monitoring thing
yeah,
to see that things are still kept up
right.
and that they don't revert back to what they were before.
Well, even the Ministry of Environment, they were supposed to bring a vote in every 5 years. And then I all of a sudden said to them, well, your 5 years is up, where's your vote? Because I kept bringing that up, and then, a couple of years now. So they were sort of getting, like, they weren't going to monitor as good as they used to. And one of the boats that comes in here and does some work is from the States. So, which is okay, they're concerned about the whole Lake Superior, right? But we should be looking after our own bay too.
Right. Fine, that's perfect. And as you say, maybe the monitoring is the next step.
Yeah.
And once your committee is decommissioned, then you'll be...
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much, David.
Okay.